was time for an outside fresh look, and she wowed us all.
On February 10th of last year, Danielle Outlaw became Philadelphia's police commissioner. And what a year and a half it has been. A pandemic, civil unrest, out-of-control murder rate. I've seen the commissioner countless times at conferences and crime scenes, but I wanted to know more. So I spent the day with her.
Just think about the hand that I was dealt, right? Typically, when you have a new commissioner come in, there's an onboarding process. We're making rounds in the community, internally. I mean, you name it. There's events hosted. You meet all the stakeholders. I mean, you're in the rooms. All that stuff happens. What happened with me?
Tell me again what happened.
COVID.
Yep.
So all of those venues, all of those warm touch points, all of those events, all of those opportunities, all of those things that would have happened normally couldn't happen.
Yeah.
And it happened virtually in smaller settings with chunks of time. So it's almost like I got robbed of a whole year.
With that, nobody wants to hear that you were dealt a bad hand. You know
Absolutely,
what I mean?
and that's why I don't say it. The day I was announced, I was asked the question, you know, what's it like? Heck, I was asked this in Portland too. What's it like being a black woman or the first? And I'm like, look,
that's all I know.
Need I remind you, I chose this profession, but I've been a black woman my whole life. So, I mean, where do I start? Which year? I mean, right? But I bring a different perspective, and I think as black women, we bring our lived experiences to allow us to inform policy, not in a biased way, but there's a different level of empathy because, again, I have sons. And I know what it's like to worry about your kid when they're driving for the first time. I mean, most parents do. But it's different for us because we know that merely because of their, their appearances, my sons, depending on where you are, they can be afraid of them just because of how they look. And so the outcome of a vehicle stop, if they're stopped by the police, can be different depending on where you are in this country. That's a natural fear that we have that comes first before this uniform, right? And so when we go to community meetings and hear that same fear and anxiety expressed by residents, we understand that because we have the same thing. And so because we have that shared experience, then that means we might move a little bit differently in how we lead.
676, the tear gassing incident. I've talked to officers who say, we feel disrespected that you didn't have our back because you had to apologize for what happened.
Yeah.
They lost respect. And I don't want to be in the police force anymore. I'm going to take the drop. I'm going to retire. That's it for me. Would you make the same decision?
So I want to be clear, and I think, again, there's so much information out here nowadays that people can pick and choose the information that they choose to believe or to follow, right? I apologize for misspeaking. When I initially gave, we were doing press conferences every day, I forget for how long after, but when I initially, right after that incident, whatever, the day or the following one, whatever it was, the immediate press conference after that, I spoke and put out a fact pattern that once I learned the facts as they occurred, didn't exist. And so, I came here with my name, my brand, my reputation. And so as soon as I learned that what I initially told the public happened was not true in the way that I said it happened, I believe that as a true leader, you go out and you say, hey, I screwed this up. I said this happened this way and it didn't. That doesn't mean that I'm turning my back on cops. That means that what you see is full transparency, and if I mess up, I'm gonna tell you in full transparency. Now, if you're quick to say, well, I don't want to do this anymore because you didn't have my back, because I have integrity and I stood out on my values, and which are also the values of this department, then it's probably time for you to go. Because if you are resting your passion, again, and this is a labor of love, on one person and what you think, you probably had in your mind that you were already counting your days anyway, right? So I see that, I call BS on that.
Why don't you knock heads more with our district attorney, Larry Krasner? He keeps letting people out of jail, and the judges are letting people out of jail, and they go back out and they shoot somebody else.
I put the information out there, I put the data out there and make it very clear. I think from day one, from the day I got announced, I made very clear what my position is. I made it very clear that there needs to be serious consequences for those who are out there committing the most violent and serious crimes. My messaging has not changed, but it's not my place to get in public pissing matches with the chief law enforcement officer of this county that I have to work with professionally. The same things that I've said Publicly, I've said behind closed doors. I was the first in my generation to go to college. So I thought that I was going to go straight through and become a social psychologist. I wanted to get a PhD, become a social psychologist, and just wherever that would take me, I would think that I kind of am, right? But like with most people, life happened with me. In my last semester of undergraduate school, I learned that I was going to be a single mother. I was expecting, and I had already worked as a cadet in the Oakland Police Department, and I was like, well, I need a job with benefits. I got to take care of my kid. And they were there, so I took the physical agility. My son was 2 weeks old, had no business out there, and they just kept their claws in me ever since. I had no idea that this would be the way that I would give back and contribute to my community. How are you, sir?
Hey. We're in these streets.
We out here.
Do people recognize you without your uniform?
Oh gosh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And what?
Yes.
Just people driving by are always going, thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
There's so much. You have a lot of support, but I think the general public thinks that all the cops don't like you.
Yeah.
The people don't like you. They want you to get out of town.
We have a lot of support, And quite frankly, I mean, look, you can't blame folks for wanting fair and constitutional policing, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But what people will tell you if you take a moment to listen is that we want more of you. It's just that when I see you, I expect you to treat me with dignity and respect.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we get that.
Okay.
Absolutely, right? So it's not that. I think somehow the narrative just kind of got twisted over time, and there's a belief that because people are calling for accountability that they don't want us here at all. That's not the case at all. They say thank you. They recognize that with a lot of these shootings that we've seen, there was a gentleman that I met maybe a couple weeks ago, and he said, look, I appreciate cops. They saved my life. When I got shot in the head, they're the ones that scooped me up and put me in the back of the car and took me to the hospital and saved my life. When I was a child, and I remember that to this day. I appreciate you cops. I've taken more selfies with having no idea where those photos are gonna end up. But it's all positive in its support. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
What's up?
He all right? I'm in good company? Oh, okay.
The negative comments about you get through to you.
Yes.
I mean, like, I get it all the time, too. My God, we're public humans.
Yeah.
Does it ever get to you?
It can if I'm reading them personally. You know what I mean? It's different when I always want to make sure that I know what the narrative is or what the climate is.
I've asked every police commissioner of Philadelphia that I've ever met, you ever think about quitting?
No, I'm not at that point yet. I'm going to continue doing this until something or someone tells me it's time to stop. I'm driven through purpose and passion. This is a labor of love. This is hard labor. I'm not going to lie to you. This has been, hard labor, but I'm constantly reminded of my purpose when a little girl looks up at me in awe and says, oh my gosh, you're the boss of all of them, right? Or people come up to me in tears and say that I inspire them, and I'm not even doing it on purpose. And like, well, what did I do? Or,
does that happen every day?
Or someone says thank you. Typically, it's something every day that reminds me of my purpose.
And it keeps you going.
And it absolutely keeps me going.
Are there cases that you can't get out of your head?
Yes. And I think I would be not a human being.
You'd be a robot.
Right? And you can't be. And that's, to me, that's when I know it's time to hang it up and do something different.
Yeah.
When I respond to a scene or whatever it is, or I learn of something, and if the day that I don't have a reaction emotionally, the day I don't get that something in my stomach, that tells me it's time to sit it down.
Just talking about the stories on TV, but you're there, see it.
Yeah.
I would think when kids get hit, they get shot, would be the toughest.
Children, that's a real hard one for me, obviously as a parent.
Yeah.
But, and what do you say? How do you find the words to console a parent or a loved one? It's very difficult.
You have 2 kids.
I have 2 kids.
They're
and
older.
They'll always be babies to me.
Yeah.
But you feel helpless. You feel helpless when you feel like there's something you can't do to fix it.
You have not had a vacation.
No. but I'm going to take one because there's no honor in showing how far you can go to get to burnout.
Right.
There's nothing attractive about that.
And because you're no good if you're burned out. I ask people on social media, I told them I was going to talk to you, and do you have any questions? Which is a dangerous thing to ask, of course. And they say, why aren't there more cops walking the beat so you get to know the neighbors? And they say, why doesn't the commissioner get out more and walk the street so we get to know you? It's almost impossible, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. Well, it's not impossible. Let's say this. There's one of me in hundreds of thousands of them, right? So I can be in one spot, and if you don't happen to be in that one spot, or you don't happen to see that we posted on social media, and I'm not about a lot of fanfare also. So I'm not traveling with cameras and doing all that. I recognize that I should probably do more so people can see that.
Yes, I know you're not shy.
Yeah.
But you don't like the spotlight.
No,
but maybe
it's not that I don't like the spotlight. My thing is I like genuine interactions, right? So I know when I get out and about and I want to engage with community or even officers, I'm going to get more of a genuine interaction than I will with all of, the stuff around me. So it's not like I don't like spotlight, but I also think too there was an expectation. It's almost like folks have me running for a political office that don't even exist.
Yeah.
I'm not a politician.
We keep banging on Philadelphia, and it is bad, but it's bad all over the country, and I don't know what it is. Do you know what it is? Why are we killing each other?
So I think anecdotally, we know specifically here, people are killing each other over narcotics.
Yeah.
The social media beefs, the arguments, guns. Arguments that would have, if you take the gun out of the equation, wouldn't be a shooting or a killing. We know that.
Yeah.
But we also know there's something larger. We're dealing with mindset. We're dealing with something going on up here. Yeah. To where people, because of the access that they have to these guns, are quick to draw and shoot, as opposed to any alternative strategy. So that's clearly a thing. People are still trying to figure it out. Again, nobody's blaming COVID, but
our viewers. That's another thing. Quit blaming the gun violence on COVID.
Yeah, they said that the last time I was on the show.
Yeah.
It's like nobody's blaming, but you have to acknowledge that everything that already existed here, the social determinants that lead to gun violence, that's proven that we know, everything was exacerbated.
Yeah.
So you can't ignore that.
What's the solution? Because I think I know what it is.
Okay, you tell me first. You go first.
There isn't one. Me personally, I've given up. We've talked about it 1,000 times on the show. I don't know how you stop it.
I think there's a lot of variables, but the one thing that still, and again, we talk about the need for more social services, right? Obviously, we have a piece in it. There's enforcement, but we're the entryway, right? What happens after we make an arrest is not within our purview. But then there's also another thing. A lot of these folks out here know who's responsible. So that's another piece that we have to work to strengthen. Well, whether you call it snitching or being a good witness, I mean, a lot of perspectives, and I know this because I've personally spoken with people, a lot of perspectives change when it hits closer to home. And right now, there's still a lot of, oh, well, that didn't happen to me, that's a us, them, or an us thing or a them thing. Apathy is growing, and a lot of this is becoming the norm for folks. We're seeing a lot of old heads, typically they would be older people, are now teenagers.
Yeah.
So our shooters are getting younger and younger, and our victims are getting younger and younger. When we come together in numbers and say, look, I'm not having this anymore, or where were you last night, young person, or I know you have a gun in my house, get it out, right? More of that, more people coming forward, and they can do it anonymously, right? To help solve some of these cases.
I think they're afraid.
Deterrence is huge. And it's not just deterrence in a non-traditional way. Some people have to go to jail for a long time.
What did you feel about the police at 14 and 15? Were you
14 was the changing point for me. Up until 14, I didn't have a trusting I didn't look at police in a respectful way or in a way of admiration, because my experience as a young person was when you see the police, you run. Wasn't doing anything, but it was because of my peers and their experiences with the police, our experiences with the police taking loved ones out of our homes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't positive interaction.
You feared the police?
Feared the police.
Did you hate the police?
I didn't hate the police, but it wasn't a trusting relationship. I didn't say, oh, look, a uniform. Typically we teach our young people, when you see a uniform or someone with, that you identify, kids do, uniforms, the hats, the badge, right? That's someone you can trust. That's a safe person. If you're ever in trouble, you run to that person. I didn't grow up feeling that way. And it wasn't because I was taught to disrespect authority. It was just we had different experiences and different interactions. We didn't see them as those who were here to protect us. We saw the police as someone to come and harm us because of our experiences. And it wasn't until I had an actual opportunity to have positive interaction with the police at 14 that I began to have more of an open mind.
I can't tell you how many times when I've talked about meeting you. Ever since she got here, the murder rate has gone up. Like, they actually believe they can blame one person for this.
Ridiculous. Murder rate's been going up since 2015. So, again, and the murder rate's been going up in the year and a half that I've been here all over the country.
Do you think you were prepared for Philadelphia, though?
Oh, yeah.
You went to Pepperdine.
Yes, I did.
The most beautiful campus in the world.
I did.
Malibu. Portland's nice. What surprises you about Philly? Or did the mayor say it's a tough town?
For sure, what prepared me for here is that I've lived in more than one place, that I've worked in more than one department. So I've experienced the culture and then the subcultures within those police departments in each place. You have to learn how to live through that personally and professionally. So I take what I learned there, and then obviously my upbringing in the Bay Area, specifically in Oakland, you add that to here. Now it's different, but at least I know who I'm dealing with here, right? And I quickly learned that there's a bullying culture.
What?
A bullying culture.
Oh, yeah.
And once they see they can't bully you, then it's like, oh, we're on to the next thing.
How come you never crack when it comes to that? Because you get bullied every day.
Because I see right through it. I see right through it. It's very easy, again, to point fingers from afar when you're not making decisions in real time, or if you're not in that position you want it to be, but you're not, Do
you ever enjoy this job?
That when you're establishing the foundation for your work, I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's satiating in that you know that you're working within a purpose. Now that things are opening up and I'm getting the introduction to the city that would have been great to have when I first got here, because things were closed. Now that they're opening, it's becoming more enjoyable, if that makes sense.
Now, when was the last time you laughed?
Oh, I laugh all the time.
In uniform?
I laugh all the time. My personality's a little bit different. You'll see photos of me, I smile.
Yeah.
That's just who I am.
Could I just say this? You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for doing it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.